Hey, legal drama enthusiasts. Welcome back to the channel. Today we're continuing our deep dive into Suits LA with a comprehensive breakdown of episode 7 titled Roadblock. If you've been following our weekly recaps, you know we're now well into the first season and the layers of complexity around Ted Black and his team continue to unfold in fascinating ways. This episode marks a significant turning point for several characters, particularly in how it handles the real life passing of actor John Amos, who appeared in the pilot episode as Ted's first client. The show pays tribute to him in a touching way that also serves to develop the relationship between Ted and Rick, which has been strained since Rick left to join Stewart's firm. We also get more revelations about Ted's New York past, particularly around the Pellegrini case that we've been seeing in flashbacks throughout the season. This episode finally reveals the crucial roadblock that Ted faced, one that would ultimately lead to his departure from the prosecutor's office and his move to Los Angeles. Before we dive into the nitty-gritty, a quick reminder: this video will contain major spoilers for the 7th episode. I'm going to break down everything, all the twists, turns, and emotional moments. So if you haven't watched it yet, now's your chance to pause this video and come back after you've experienced it for yourself. Don't worry, I'll wait. Still with me? Great. For this hour-long breakdown, I'll be covering everything: plot details, character dynamics, the touching tribute to John Amos, and of course, the revelations about Ted's past that continue to shape his present. So grab your coffee, settle in, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button and notification bell so you never miss our in-depth episode analyses. Now, let's get into the emotional roller coaster that is episode 7 of Suits, LA. Episode 7 opens with Ted in celebration mode following the conclusion of Lester Thompson's trial. His victory lap is cut short, however, when he receives the news that his first client, John Amos, who played himself in the pilot, has passed away. This immediately establishes a somber tone that permeates the episode. In an attempt to honor John's memory, Ted reaches out to Rick, as John was also Rick's first client when he was working under Ted. Despite their professional separation, the two agree to meet for drinks at the iconic Musso and Frank Grill on Hollywood Boulevard. What starts as a memorial toast turns into a night of heavy drinking and reminiscing about their former client and the good old days before their professional relationship fractured. During their drunken wandering after leaving the bar, Rick stumbles onto a Hollywood Walk of Fame star, which gives him an idea. He points out that despite John Amos's significant contributions to television and film, particularly for Black representation in Hollywood, he doesn't have a star on the Walk of Fame. This leads to Ted and Rick hatching a plan to rectify this oversight as a way to honor John's legacy. Meanwhile, at Railsback Lane, Stewart finds himself defending a Hollywood fixer named David Bowie. Not the famous musician, a fact that becomes a running joke throughout the episode. David is more interested in having Samantha handle his public relations crisis than in working with Stewart on his legal defense, creating tension as Stewart tries to assert his authority as the attorney of record. Over at Black Associates, Kevin is preparing to return to New York now that Lester's trial has concluded. This prompts Erica to devise a plan to convince him to stay in Los Angeles. She enlists his help with a personal matter, finding an old friend of her mother's for her upcoming birthday, hoping this will remind Kevin of his investigative talents and the good he can do in LA. In another storyline, Leah faces a career crossroads after reading her client Tina's new script. Realizing she could write a better one herself, Leah approaches Rosalind about taking a sabbatical to pursue screenwriting. Rosalind challenges Leah to really think about what she wants from her career, giving her 2 days to decide. Throughout the episode, we also get flashbacks to 2010 New York, where Ted is preparing for his case against mob boss Pellegrini. The flashbacks reveal that Ted's father received a targeting letter from the U.S. Attorney's Office after Pellegrini discovered something illegal in his past and used it to try to extort him into convincing Ted to take a job outside the prosecutor's office. When Ted refuses to use his position to help his father avoid prosecution, he instead proposes an alternative. His father could testify against Pellegrini in exchange for immunity. This would both save his father from legal consequences and strengthen Ted's case against the mob boss. However, fearing retaliation from Pellegrini, Ted's father refuses to testify, leaving Ted with a weakened case and the knowledge that he'll be forced to leave the U.S. Attorney's Office once the trial concludes. The episode culminates with Ted and Rick successfully getting John Amos on the list for a Hollywood Walk of Fame star, though it won't be placed for 2 years. Ted initially explodes at both the Walk of Fame representative and Rick about the delay, but later realizes he's perpetuating the same toxic patterns that have damaged his other relationships. He calls Rick to apologize, and the two share a moment of reconciliation as they watch John's most famous episode of Good Times. Ted watching with Kevin while Erica joins Rick at his office. Episode 7 provides significant development for several key characters, particularly in how they handle grief, professional challenges, and personal revelations. Ted Black continues to be a study in contrasts. His initial celebration of the Lester Thompson victory shows his competitive side, but the news of John Amos's death reveals a more vulnerable aspect of his character. John wasn't just Ted's first client, he was a father figure of sorts, which is particularly significant given Ted's complicated relationship with his actual father. The flashbacks showing Ted refusing to compromise his principles to help his father avoid prosecution demonstrate his commitment to justice, but also his rigidity when it comes to moral standards. Ted's explosive reaction to the Hollywood Walk of Fame representative and to Rick shows that he still struggles with controlling his temper, especially when emotionally affected. However, his later apology to Rick marks growth, an acknowledgement that he's recognizing destructive patterns in his behavior. When Ted reveals that John Amos had warned him about creating toxic relationships with Rick and Stewart, similar to the one with his father, it shows that John had insights into Ted's character that Ted himself is only now beginning to acknowledge. Rick Sorkin gets more substantial development in this episode than we've seen previously. His willingness to join Ted in honoring John Amos, despite their professional split, shows his fundamental decency. The drunken night at Musso and Frank reveals that beneath his professional ambition lies a sense of nostalgia and regret about leaving Ted's firm. His confession that he misses working with both Ted and Erica adds layers to his character, suggesting he's not entirely comfortable with his choice to join Stewart. The drunken text to Erica asking her out on a date also introduces a potential romantic subplot that had been hinted at but not explicitly addressed until now. This adds another dimension to Rick's character and sets up interesting dynamics for future episodes. Kevin Winbush faces a crucial decision about his future in this episode. Having fulfilled his commitment to help with Lester's case, he's prepared to return to New York and the investigation firm he inherited from his father. His reluctance to abandon the firm that saved him after he was kicked out of the FBI, likely for helping Ted with the Pellegrini case, reveals his sense of loyalty and obligation. However, his connection with Erica's mother and his obvious enjoyment of life in LA suggest an internal conflict between duty and personal happiness. Erica Davis demonstrates her strategic thinking in her attempt to convince Kevin to stay in Los Angeles. Rather than directly asking him to stay, she creates a situation where he can use his investigative skills and connect with her family, hoping this will naturally lead him to reconsider his departure. This subtle manipulation shows Erica's intelligence and interpersonal savvy. The revelation that she arranged for Kevin to meet her mother, who immediately recognized his grief over his deceased wife, adds emotional depth to both characters. Leah's character undergoes significant development as she confronts her career ambitions. Her initial confidence that she could write a better script than her client shows a certain naivete, but her willingness to seek brutal feedback from Rick, not knowing he would be critiquing her own work, demonstrates courage. When she receives negative feedback, rather than becoming defensive or giving up, she integrates the criticism and finds a way to use her talents within her chosen profession. This represents real growth and self-awareness. Stewart Lane continues to be positioned as Ted's foil. While Ted is dealing with emotional matters related to John Amos's death, Stewart is focused on handling David Bowie's case in a purely pragmatic way. His frustration with the client's preference for Samantha's PR approach over his legal strategy highlights Stewart's ego and his need to be recognized as the best defense attorney in the country. The contrast between Stewart's business as usual approach and Ted's emotional journey in this episode further emphasizes the fundamental differences between the two former partners. The flashbacks to Ted's father, played by Matt Letcher, provide crucial context for Ted's character development. His refusal to testify against Pellegrini, even to help his son's case and save himself from prosecution, demonstrates a self-preservation instinct that contrasts with Ted's more principled approach. The revelation that his actions, or inaction, contributed to Ted's eventual departure from the prosecutor's office adds another layer of complexity to their already strained relationship. Episode 7 contains several pivotal scenes that significantly advance both the plot and character development. Let's break down these key moments. The opening sequence shows Ted in rare form, celebrating his victory in Lester Thompson's case. This momentary triumph is immediately contrasted with the news of John Amos's death, creating an emotional whiplash that sets the tone for the episode. The quick shift from celebration to mourning establishes the episode's theme of how quickly life can change and the importance of recognizing what truly matters. The first meeting between Ted and Rick at Musso and Frank Grill is laden with emotional significance. These two characters, who started as mentor and protege before becoming professional rivals, find common ground in their shared grief. The choice of Musso and Frank, Hollywood's oldest restaurant, frequented by industry legends for decades, provides the perfect backdrop for honoring John Amos, himself a Hollywood legend. The gradual progression from awkward small talk to genuine reminiscing as they consume half a dozen old fashions creates an authentic bonding moment that feels earned rather than forced. One of the most revealing moments comes when a drunk Rick confesses to Ted that he misses working with him and Erica. This vulnerable admission, loosened by alcohol, provides insight into Rick's true feelings about his career choices. The subsequent drunken text to Erica asking her out adds another layer of complexity to the Rick-Erica dynamic that had been simmering in the background. The eureka moment, where Rick stumbles onto a Hollywood Walk of Fame star and realizes John Amos doesn't have one, is particularly well executed. It transforms their drinking session from a passive act of mourning into an active mission to honor John's legacy. This moment of inspiration, while literally falling onto a star, is both symbolic and organic to the character's inebriated state. The meeting with the Hollywood Walk of Fame representative presents a significant obstacle to Ted and Rick's plan. The representative's admission that he's never seen good times triggers Ted's explosive reaction, revealing how personally Ted is taking this mission to honor John. Ted's outburst, pointing out the cultural significance of John Amos's work and name-dropping his client Denzel Washington, demonstrates both his passion and his privilege. The scene effectively captures how grief can manifest as anger when facing bureaucratic roadblocks. In the flashback timeline, the confrontation between Ted and his father represents the central roadblock referenced in the episode title. Ted's father's refusal to testify against Pellegrini, despite Ted arranging immunity and witness protection, creates an insurmountable obstacle to Ted's case and career path. The fear in his father's eyes when he says he'd rather go to jail than die humanizes him while simultaneously highlighting the real danger Pellegrini represents. This scene finally provides concrete context for why Ted had to leave the prosecutor's office and eventually New York altogether. Leah's meeting with Rick to get feedback on her friend's scripts contains both comedy and pathos. The dramatic irony of Rick not knowing he's critiquing Leah's own work allows for brutally honest feedback that might otherwise have been softened. Leah's ability to maintain composure while hearing her work described as lacking talent shows remarkable emotional control and maturity. This scene represents a turning point for her character as she realizes that while she may not be a talented writer, she can use her understanding of storytelling to help others improve their work. The moment where Ted explodes at Rick after their meeting with the Walk of Fame representative represents Ted at his worst, taking out his frustration on someone who's trying to help him. This outburst, combined with his earlier one at the representative, shows Ted repeating destructive patterns of behavior. The scene is particularly powerful because it comes after Rick has actually succeeded in getting John on the list for a star, making Ted's reaction all the more unreasonable and hurtful. Ted's subsequent apology call to Rick marks a crucial moment of growth. His revelation that John Amos had warned him about creating toxic relationships with Rick and Stewart, similar to the one with his father, shows self awareness that had been lacking. By acknowledging this pattern and taking responsibility for his behavior, Ted demonstrates emotional growth that has been building throughout the season. The episode's final scenes, with Ted and Kevin watching Good Times in one location, while Rick and Erica watch the same episode in another, create a beautiful symbolic connection between the now separated colleagues. This shared experience, even at a distance, honors John Amos while suggesting the possibility of reconciliation and new beginnings. The parallel structure of these scenes, cutting between the two locations, visually reinforces the theme that even divided, these characters remain connected by their shared experiences and history. Episode 7 of Suits LA represents a significant tonal shift for the series, balancing its usual legal drama with more emotional, character-driven storytelling. The decision to incorporate John Amos's real-life passing into the narrative was both respectful and narratively effective, allowing the show to pay tribute to the legendary actor while using this event to explore the complex relationships between characters. What makes this episode particularly successful is how it uses John Amos's death as a catalyst for healing rather than just a moment of sadness. The shared grief brings Ted and Rick together in a way that feels organic rather than contrived. Their mission to secure a Walk of Fame star for John provides a tangible goal that represents their respect for their former client while also serving as a metaphor for preserving legacy, a theme that resonates throughout the various storylines. The Hollywood Walk of Fame plot thread offers a perfect blend of insider entertainment industry detail and emotional resonance. It's exactly the kind of storyline that distinguishes Suits LA from the original series and capitalizes on its Los Angeles setting. The name-dropping of celebrities like Denzel Washington and Beyoncé feels natural in this context rather than gratuitous, as it's directly relevant to the conversation about which performers have been recognized with stars. The flashbacks to Ted's New York days continue to be some of the strongest material in the series. The revelation about his father's refusal to testify against Pellegrini provides crucial context for Ted's career trajectory and his complicated relationship with his father. This roadblock finally explains the circumstances that forced Ted to leave the prosecutor's office and eventually New York altogether. The parallel between this past roadblock and the bureaucratic roadblock Ted faces with the Walk of Fame committee creates a nice thematic unity across the episode's timelines. Stephen Amell delivers some of his strongest work of the series in this episode, effectively conveying Ted's grief, anger, and eventual self-realization. His ability to transition from celebration to mourning in the opening scenes, and from rage to remorse in his interactions with Rick, demonstrates impressive emotional range. The moment where he acknowledges John Amos's warning about repeating toxic relationship patterns feels like a genuine breakthrough for the character. Brian Greenberg also shines as Rick, bringing vulnerability and humor to his drunken scenes while maintaining the character's fundamental competence when it matters. The revelation that Rick misses working with Ted and Erica adds welcome complexity to a character who could have easily been relegated to a simple rival role. Where the episode falters somewhat is in its handling of the Stewart David Bowie subplot, which feels disconnected from the emotional core of the episode. While it provides some comic relief with a running joke about the fixer sharing a name with the famous musician, it doesn't advance Stewart's character in meaningful ways or connect thematically with the episode's exploration of legacy and reconciliation. Similarly, the Kevin Erica storyline, while sweet in its executee, feels somewhat underdeveloped. The introduction of Erica's mother, played by Crystal Fox, adds a welcome new dimension. But Kevin's reason for needing to return to New York, running his deceased father's investigation firm, feels like an artificially created obstacle rather than an organic character choice. Leah's career crisis storyline, however, is handled with nuance and authenticity. Her journey from overconfidence about her writing abilities to a more realistic assessment of her talents and how to apply them within her chosen profession represents genuine character growth. This subplot effectively explores the theme of finding one's place in the entertainment industry without relying on cliched follow your dreams messaging. Overall, episode 7 represents Suits LA at its best, using its entertainment industry setting to tell stories that couldn't be told in the original series while maintaining the character driven drama that made Suits successful. By addressing John Amos's real life passing with sensitivity and narrative purpose, the show demonstrates a maturity and emotional intelligence that elevates it beyond typical legal procedural fare. Episode 7 sets up several intriguing possibilities for the remaining 3 episodes of the season. Let's explore what might be coming next. The reconciliation between Ted and Rick, while meaningful, remains tentative and incomplete. Their shared experience honoring John Amos has opened the door to healing their professional rift, but Rick is still working at Stewart's firm. The question of whether Rick might eventually return to Ted's team looms large, especially given his drunk confession that he misses working with Ted and Erica. With only 3 episodes left in the season, we might see this storyline accelerate, particularly if Rick becomes disillusioned with Stewart's approach to practicing law. Rick's drunken text asking Erica out on a date introduces a potential romantic subplot that could significantly impact the firm dynamics. If Erica reciprocates Rick's interest, it could create both personal and professional complications, especially if Rick is considering returning to Ted's firm. The next episode might explore Erica's reaction to this unexpected invitation and whether she sees Rick as a potential romantic partner or just a former colleague. Kevin's decision to return to New York seems firm for now, but Erica's efforts to convince him to stay could bear fruit in upcoming episodes. The connection between Kevin and Erica's mother suggests he might find the family connection he's been missing since his wife's death. With his FBI background and investigative skills, Kevin could become an even more valuable asset to Ted's firm if he decides to stay permanently. The preview for the next episode might give us clues about whether Kevin reconsiders his departure. The revelation that Ted's father refused to testify against Pellegrini, forcing Ted to leave the prosecutor's office after the case concluded, fills in a crucial piece of the puzzle regarding Ted's past. However, we still don't know exactly how this connects to Eddie's death, which has been hinted at throughout the season. With the timeline established that Ted left the prosecutor's office after the Pellegrini trial, the next episodes will likely show how Eddie's murder fits into this chronology and what role, if any, Pellegrini played in it. Leah's decision to embrace her role as an entertainment lawyer who can provide creative feedback rather than pursuing screenwriting herself represents character growth, but it also positions her for potential conflict with Rosalind. If Leah begins offering services that go beyond traditional legal representation, it could blur professional boundaries in ways that make her boss uncomfortable. This might lead to tensions within the firm as Leah develops her unique approach to entertainment law. Stewart's case with Hollywood fixer David Bowie seems poised to continue into the next episode, with the tension between legal defense and public relations strategy likely to escalate. This storyline could provide insights into how Stewart's firm operates differently from Ted's, particularly in how they balance legal obligations with client demands. It might also reveal more about Samantha's role in the firm and her approach to managing high-profile clients. The title of the next episode, which wasn't revealed in episode 7, will likely give additional clues about which of these storylines takes precedence. With only 3 episodes remaining in the season, the show will need to start bringing its various plot threads together toward a cohesive finale that sets up potential storylines for a second season, if renewed. Based on the pacing of previous episodes, we might expect the next installment to begin addressing the question of whether Ted can rebuild his firm into something sustainable long term. With Lester's case concluded and the emotional tribute to John Amos complete, Ted needs a new focus, both professionally and personally. The remaining episodes will likely reveal whether he can translate his recent experiences into positive growth or whether he'll continue to struggle with the same patterns that have caused him problems throughout the season. Episode 7 of Suits, LA represents a significant emotional turning point for the series, using the real life passing of John Amos to explore themes of legacy, reconciliation, and personal growth. By integrating this real world event into the narrative, the show demonstrates a maturity and sensitivity that elevates it beyond typical legal drama fare. The episode successfully balances multiple storylines while maintaining thematic coherence. Whether it's Ted and Rick honoring John Amos, Leah finding her professional path, or the flashbacks revealing why Ted had to leave the prosecutor's office, each plot thread explores different facets of facing obstacles and making difficult choices. The title Roadblock proves apt for an episode that shows characters confronting barriers, both external and self imposed, and finding ways to navigate around them. Stephen Amell continues to impress as Ted Black, bringing emotional depth to a character who could easily have been a one note legal shark. His performance in the scenes acknowledging his toxic patterns shows growth not just for the character but for the series as a whole, suggesting that Suits LA is interested in exploring genuine character development rather than just legal case of the week scenarios. The decision to focus on the Hollywood Walk of Fame as a plot device was inspired, using a recognizable Los Angeles landmark to tell a story that's uniquely suited to the show's setting. This kind of entertainment industry insider detail is where Suits LA distinguishes itself from its predecessor and finds its own voice. As we move into the final 3 episodes of the season, the show has positioned its characters at interesting crossroads. Ted has begun to recognize his destructive patterns but must now actively work to change them. Rick is questioning his decision to leave Ted's firm, potentially setting up a return. Leah has found clarity about her professional identity. Kevin must decide whether to stay in Los Angeles or return to New York. These personal dilemmas provide rich material for the season's conclusion. The show has also successfully deepened its mythology around Ted's New York past, finally revealing why he had to leave the prosecutor's office. With this piece of the puzzle in place, the remaining mystery centers on Eddie's death and how it connects to the Pellegrini case. The resolution of this storyline will likely provide emotional closure for Ted, while potentially introducing new complications for his future. Overall, Episode 7 demonstrates that Suits LA is finding its stride as it approaches the end of its first season. By balancing legal drama with personal storytelling and making effective use of its Los Angeles setting, the show has established its own identity while honoring the legacy of the original Suits. What did you think of the John Amos tribute? Are you hoping to see Rick return to Ted's firm? Do you think Kevin will decide to stay in Los Angeles? And what are your theories about how Eddie's death connects to the Pellegrini case? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this breakdown, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and share with your fellow legal drama enthusiasts. I'll be back next week with a full breakdown of Episode 8, so make sure you've got those notifications turned on. Until next time, this is Amelia 2.00, making sense of the legal chaos one episode at a time.